Have you ever found yourself staring at a price tag, maybe on, I don't know, a new gadget or even just a cup of coffee and thought, how on earth did they land on that number?
Right. It happens all the time.
It's something we interact with constantly every day, yet the how and why behind it often feel like a total mystery. Well, today, we're pulling back that curtain. This deep dive is all about getting you truly informed on the practical pricing approaches companies use really every single day.
And our source material for this is fantastic, actually, because it gives us a really clear framework for understanding the fundamental influences and, the diverse strategies companies use when setting prices. It's so much more than just covering what it costs them to make something. It's a dynamic interplay, really, between their internal stuff, their customers, and their competitors.
Exactly. So our mission today is to unpack how companies skillfully navigate those crucial factors, their own production costs, your willingness as a customer to pay, and, well, what all their competitors are up to arrive at that final price. It's a fascinating balancing act.
It really is.
So if a company is just starting out thinking about how to price a new product, what's the very first thing that, has to cross their mind? Where do they even begin?
That's a great starting point, because our sources highlight three main influences that form the absolute bedrock of any pricing decision. The first, and maybe the most intuitive one, is cost.
Right.
Simply put, the selling price has to cover the cost of production. Now, companies can calculate these costs in different ways. Marginal cost, total absorption, lifecycle, relevant costs. They often end up with a cost-plus model where they just add a markup. But while it's essential, focusing only on cost, well, it rarely gives them the best answers.
Okay, so cost is number one. What else?
Second, they absolutely have to think about customers. Exactly you. Companies need to deeply understand what you, the customer, are actually prepared to pay for the product. This directly ties into price elasticity of demand, how much demand changes when the price shifts, and the overall demand function. That's basically the company's best guess at how many people will buy their product at different prices.
Makes sense, if it's too expensive.
Exactly. If prices are set too high, products just won't sell in high enough volumes. Simple as that.
Okay, so cost, customers, what's the third leg of the stool?
And finally, there are competitors. Their presence, their strength. It hugely dictates how much flexibility a company actually has with its pricing.
Right.
If there are tons of competitors selling very similar things, a company has very little wiggle room.
Yeah.
They often have to align pretty closely with the market price.
Okay.
But flip side, if a company happens to be a monopoly supplier, they generally have much more freedom. Though it's worth noting, even being a monopoly isn't a guarantee of profit if nobody actually wants the product in the first place.
Good point. So you can see it's this constant, intricate dance between what it costs us to make, what you, the customer, perceive as value and are willing to pay, and what everyone else in the market is offering.
Precisely. It's never just one thing.
It's never just one factor.
That's it. And now that we've got that core framework, let's really dig into how companies actually calculate those costs, because that's often where they start. While these methods are primarily, inward-looking, focused on the company's internal figures, they really do form the baseline for a lot of pricing decisions.
Right. This is where it gets really interesting, I think, as we unpack the different ways companies break down their costs to set a price. Let's start with marginal cost pricing.
Okay.
This is just the cost of producing one additional unit, right?
Exactly.
So for instance, if the marginal cost for a product was, say, $120 and the company added a 25% markup, the selling price would be $150, which means a $30 contribution per unit. And the total contribution obviously has to cover all the fixed costs for the company to actually make a profit.
Yes. But the true strategic insight with marginal cost, it's really about empowering companies to take on extra business, maybe even at what seems like a low price.
Okay. How so?
Well, as long as that price covers the marginal cost and contributes something, anything towards fixed overhead, it's usually worth doing. Think about airlines filling empty seats last minute for cheap fares.
Right.
Or factories taking on urgent orders. As long as they cover that extra incremental cost, it generally makes sense. There's really no point setting a price below variable cost unless, you're contractually stuck, or maybe you're doing some big promotional push to get into a new market.
Got it. So marginal cost is about that extra unit. What's next?
Then we have total absorption cost pricing. This one takes a broader view by including both variable and fixed costs in the unit cost calculation.
Okay, so everything bundled in.
pretty much.
Yeah.
So if that same product had a marginal cost of $120 and let's say fixed overhead was absorbed at $40 per unit, the total absorption cost is $160.
Yeah.
At a 20% markup maybe, and you get a selling price of $192, which would give you a profit of $32 per unit.
So what's the advantage here compared to just marginal cost?
Well, the strategic advantage is if the product isn't selling well at $192, the company might think about lowering the price, sure. But maybe more powerfully, they might be pushed to find ways to reduce that $160 cost base.
Yeah.
It forces them to focus on cutting both variable and fixed production expenses. It gives a fuller picture of cost efficiency.
That makes sense. It highlights the total picture. And there's an even broader view, right? Lifecycle costing. Can you give us an example of how looking at costs that way might totally shift a company's pricing game?
Absolutely. Lifecycle costing, it considers all costs over a product's entire life, everything from the initial concept and design through all the production years and even post-production stuff like cleanup or disposal.
Wow. Okay.
The long-term goal is simple. Total revenue has to cover these total lifetime costs. So imagine a complex product. Maybe the initial design and setting of the production line costs, say, a couple of $1 million. Then over its life, the actual variable production costs plus the fixed costs might add up to, I don't know, 10 million more.
Okay.
And finally, closing down production might cost another $1 million.
Yeah.
So that's a total lifetime cost of $13 million.
Right.
Now, if they estimate they'll sell, say, 2 million units over the product's life, the lifetime cost per unit is $6.50. The selling price has to be set above that $6.50 for them to make a profit in the long run.
So the key takeaway here is almost counterintuitive, isn't it? It means spending more on product design right at the start in those early stages.
Yeah.
Might actually save a massive amount later during production, which lowers the overall lifetime costs.
Exactly.
And lets them set a lower, more attractive selling price out in the market. It's a real long-term strategic view.
That's a perfect summary. And another fascinating approach is relevant costing.
Relevant costing.
Yeah. This method focuses only on future cash flows that are directly caused by making a specific product or, more often, entering a specific contract or project. It helps a company figure out the absolute minimum price they should accept for a particular job.
So this isn't about all costs, just the ones that change because of this decision. Like what actually shifts financially if they say yes?
Precisely. Think about a special project, maybe a one-off contract.
Okay.
Let's say you've already bought some materials, maybe components, that could be used. The $12,000 you originally paid for them, that's a sunk cost. It's history, irrelevant for this future decision.
All right, already spent.
But here's the twist. If those components could be sold right now for, say, $10,500, then using them for this project means you lose that potential $10,500 inflow. That lost opportunity is a relevant cost.
Okay, that makes sense. What else?
Any new components you have to buy specifically for this contract, say another $15,000, definitely relevant. That's a new cash outflow. Hiring an extra member of staff just for this contract for a year, salary $20,000. That's relevant too. Another outflow.
Makes sense.
But what about staff you already employ who are maybe currently idle, not busy? Say their salary is $16,000. If they work on this contract, well, you're paying them anyway, right?
Yeah, their cost doesn't change because of this specific contract.
Exactly. There's no incremental cash flow effect. So their salary in this context is irrelevant for deciding the minimum price for this contract.
Okay, so in that example, the total relevant cost would be the lost sales opportunity, $10,500, plus the new components, $15,000, plus the new staff, $20,000, which is $45,500.
Correct. And that $45,500 represents the absolute minimum price they should demand for that contract. Any less, and the company would actually be worse off taking the job.
That really does raise an important question, doesn't it? What's the actual cost if you factor in opportunity rather than just what you've already put down on the books?
It's a very different way of thinking about cost.
So given how precise these cost calculations can seem, it sounds like these cost-plus methods should be a pretty foolproof way to price things.
Yeah.
But what's the catch? Is there a big flaw?
Oh, there's a huge flaw.
Yeah.
And it's critical. Simply calculating a price based on your internal costs doesn't guarantee a single sale. Not one.
Right.
These methods are entirely inward-looking. Like we said, they pay almost zero attention to customers or competitors.
So you could be way off.
You could be way off. A company could be incredibly inefficient, have outrageously high costs, and end up with a selling price that no customer would ever even consider.
Yeah.
And even if they are efficient, Their competitors might just be offering similar stuff at a lower price, making their calculated cost plus price totally unsustainable in the market.
Okay, so it ignores the outside world.
Completely. But here's where it gets really interesting, the other side of the coin. These methods can also dramatically underestimate a viable selling price.
How so?
Think about a simple cotton t-shirt, okay? Maybe it costs a brand, I don't know, $3 to make.
Yeah.
But if a really fashionable designer's logo gets sewn onto it, even if that logo costs next to nothing to actually apply, the potential selling price is suddenly hugely boosted by brand association, by perceived value, by what people want to pay to be associated with that brand.
Right. You see that all the time.
Exactly. And cost plus pricing in that scenario, it would completely miss out on potentially massive profit because it just ignores what the market is actually willing to pay for that brand, that image.
Okay, that makes perfect sense. It's not just about the physical thing. So moving beyond just what it costs to make something, let's explore some of the more dynamic pricing strategies, the ones that really play on market conditions and customer behavior. What are some of the big ones when launching a brand new product?
Absolutely. When a company launches something new, they often face a choice between two kind of opposite strategies, price skimming and penetration pricing.
Skimming and penetration.
Price skimming means launching at a really high price. The assumption is that enough early adopters, the innovators, will pay that premium just to be among the first to own it.
Like with new phones or tech gadgets.
Exactly. Very common in those markets. Often, production output is limited early on anyway, so high prices with low volume actually make sense. Then, gradually, they lower the price over time to attract more mainstream customers.
Okay, so start high, then drop. What's penetration pricing?
Penetration pricing is the complete opposite. You go into the market with an aggressively low price.
Why would you do that?
The aim is to win a huge market share really quickly and sell massive volumes right from the start.
Okay.
And if you sell large volumes, that can lead to very low unit costs, right? Because your fixed costs get spread much more thinly across loads more units.
Economies of scale.
Precisely. This allows the company to actually make profits even at those super low prices. And that early market domination can make it incredibly difficult for any new competitors to even think about entering the market later on.
Okay, so whether it's a high launch price or a low one, those are big strategies for new products. But what about products where it's not just a one-off purchase? You know, where the company knows you'll need more from them down the line. How do they leverage that?
That brings us neatly to complementary product pricing.
Okay.
This is where the initial product, the sort of main item, is sold at a pretty low price, maybe even close to cost, just to attract customers.
Get you in the door.
Exactly. But then the subsequent necessary things, maybe training, maintenance, and especially consumables, are sold at relatively high prices.
Okay, I know this one, like inkjet printers. The printer itself might cost you, what, $70? But then a set of replacement ink cartridges could easily be $30.
That's the classic example. Most of the profit isn't made on selling the printer itself. It's made on all those follow-up ink sales over the years. It's a very clever way to get customers locked into your ecosystem, knowing they'll need those complementary items again and again.
Very clever. So once you're in, how do they offer choices?
Well, that leads us nicely into something like product line pricing.
Product lines.
Yeah, product line is basically a group of similar products from the same manufacturer that vary in, design, features, functionality, or maybe target different types of customers. It presents a clear range of features and, importantly, different prices.
You see this everywhere once you start looking for it, don't you? Mobile phones. They come with different screen sizes, resolutions, speeds, camera qualities. Cars offer different engines, paint jobs, interior fittings, even hotel rooms.
Yeah.
Different sizes, bed types, suites, rooms with or without a view. It's never just one single option.
Exactly. And the advantages for you, the buyer, are pretty significant. You can adjust your purchase to suit your budget and exactly what you need without having to just walk away and go to a different supplier.
Right, you find something that fits.
Plus, people actually like having reference points when they choose. Seeing a basic car model at a low price attracts initial interest. It sets an entry level. Then you, the buyer, focus on the price increments to upgrade to something better.
Yeah, you weigh up the extras.
People simply like choice. If a company only offered one level of product, they'd probably send a lot of potential customers elsewhere. And, crucially for the company, the price increase between a basic model and a better model is usually much, much greater than the actual increase in costs needed to make that better model.
So the margins are better on the upgrades.
Definitely. It allows for very profitable upselling.
Okay, makes sense. Now, something we all encounter is volume discounting. The bulk buy deals, like buy one, get 50% off the second. We love those.
And often, you are getting a good deal because it can be a win-win. These are super common in business-to-business, B2B sales.
What is specifically?
Well, larger purchases create significant economies of scale for the seller. Think about it. One large shipment is way cheaper to organize and send than two small ones, right?
Sure, logistics costs.
Exactly. Plus, it helps increase the supplier's market share. Then, in turn, the retailers who buy in bulk benefit from those cheaper purchase costs. And they may then pass some of those savings on to us, the end customers.
Which attracts us into the store.
Right, which attracts more customers who then probably buy other things while they're there, leading to a bigger overall shopping basket. So it works all the way down the chain.
Okay. And finally, let's talk about price discrimination. Now, this is when a company offers the exact same goods in different markets at different prices. It sounds a little tricky, doesn't it? Maybe even unfair.
It can sound that way, but it's an incredibly common and strategic practice. Think about pharmaceuticals. They're often priced radically differently in different countries, depending heavily on the average wealth and the healthcare systems in place.
Right, I've heard about that.
Or think about advanced purchase tickets for travel planes, trains. They often cost much less than just walking up and buying one on the day. That's effectively segmenting the market based on your planning ability and how much flexibility you need. Even things like electrical goods or cameras are often sold much more cheaply in, say, the USA than they are here in the UK. You might see something for $100 in the US, and the same item is 100 pounds over here, which is obviously not the same price at current exchange rates.
So what's the goal for the company doing this?
What sellers are trying to do is basically maximize their profits in each separate market by adjusting the price to what that specific market segment will bear. They're trying to find the point where marginal revenue equals marginal cost in each market independently.
That's incredibly clever, but does it ever, backfire? Does segmenting your market like that ever annoy customers who find out they're paying more than someone else?
Oh, that's definitely a risk, absolutely. Managing brand perception across different price points is crucial. But for price discrimination to really work effectively, the key condition is that it needs to be difficult or impossible for the goods sold cheaply in one market to be easily transferred or resold into the more expensive market.
Right. You need to start people just buying cheap and selling high elsewhere.
Exactly. You need to prevent arbitrage. So going back to pharmaceuticals, even if the core drug is identical, they might have different brand names, different colors or shapes for the pills, and crucially, different regulatory approvals in each country to deter these gray imports.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Similarly, those cheaper electrical goods you buy in the USA, they probably require a different voltage, 110V instead of 230V, a different frequency, 60 Hz versus 50 Hz, and they come with a totally different electrical plug. All that makes them largely incompatible elsewhere without adapters or converters.
So it creates a natural barrier.
It does. And it works particularly well in service industries because services are inherently difficult to transfer from one person or place to another. You can't easily resell a haircut you got cheaply somewhere else.
Huh. True. What's fascinating here is just how strategically companies slice and dice their market to optimize profit, playing on everything from geography to how far ahead you plan.
It really shows how pricing connects to so many aspects of business strategy.
So, wow, we've gone from the raw cost of making a product all the way through to these really complex strategies like price discrimination. It's abundantly clear that pricing is anything but simple.
Not simple at all.
It's a real strategic puzzle, isn't it?
It truly is. It's a fascinating, really dynamic area of business. And unlike many costs, which, accountants can often control fairly tightly within the company.
Right.
Setting the price of goods means you're constantly interacting with all these external factors. Your suppliers, your customers, the wider economy, and maybe most importantly, your competitors.
So it's definitely not a set it and forget it kind of deal then.
No, not at all. The correct price, if there even is such a thing, is rarely stable for long.
Why is that?
Well, think about it. New products are always emerging, production technology keeps advancing, new competitors jump into the market, and customer tastes, they're constantly shifting.
Always changing.
Always changing. All these forces ensure that pricing decisions can't just be made once. They have to be continuously revisited, reviewed, and refined. It's an ongoing process of adaptation.
So maybe the next time you see a price tag, you should consider not just what it might have cost to actually make that item, but the entire strategic dance that's happening behind that number. What might that price be trying to tell you, or maybe even do to you as a customer?
That's a great thought to leave people with. What story is that price tag telling?